America's Justice Department releases a stunning new revelation in the Epstein case. New files expose a previously hidden international connection tied to Jeffrey Epstein. Federal investigators discovered Epstein was traveling under a false passport. His legal team claims the fake passport was for security, not deception. Among the thousands of newly released Epstein files is a detail that once stunned a federal courtroom. Hidden inside a safe at Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan mansion, FBI agents uncovered a fake Austrian passport during a 2019 raid, shortly after Epstein's arrest on federal sex trafficking charges. The passport bore Epstein's photograph, but not his name. Instead, it identified him as Marius Robert Fortelny. Issued in May 1982, the fraudulent passport listed Epstein's residence as Saudi Arabia and his profession simply as manager. Photographs released in the latest file dump show the document stamped with travel records across France, Spain, the United Kingdom, and Saudi Arabia, with trips logged throughout 1982 and into 1983. At the time, prosecutors called the discovery a major red flag. In court filings, the Justice Department argued the fake passport proved Epstein was a serious flight risk, someone with the resources, knowledge, and connections to assume false identities and disappear across borders. The passport became a central argument in the government's successful push to deny Epstein bail. Now, newly released emails add another layer. An exchange between FBI or NYPD officials and an assistant U.S. attorney shows investigators attempting to track down the real Marius Fortelny. According to the emails, Fortelny was Austrian, had once lived in Saudi Arabia, and was residing in Southampton, New York at the time. Prosecutors discussed verifying whether Fortelny's real birth date matched the one listed in the passport, and then contacting him to ask a chilling question. Why would a passport from his native country bearing his name contain Jeffrey Epstein's photograph and be found locked inside Epstein's safe? Epstein's defense team offered a very different explanation. In a memo to the judge, Epstein's lawyers claimed he acquired the passport in the 1980s during a period of frequent hijackings tied to Middle East travel. They argued it was meant purely for personal protection, to be shown to kidnappers or terrorists if needed, and insisted there was no evidence Epstein ever used it. Prosecutors weren't convinced. Epstein died in federal custody in 2019 before his case went to trial. But years later, the fake passport remains one of the most unsettling artifacts of his secretive life, symbolizing the wealth, access, and escape routes he may have believed were always within reach.
She has consistently and repeatedly said that in 1996, in the summer of 1996, she reported Jeffrey Epstein to the FBI after having reported him to the New York Police Department. She reported Epstein and she reported Ghislaine Maxwell as well for child sex abuse crimes, including child pornography. Maria Farmer was a professional artist. She was about 25 years old. She had graduated from the New York Academy of Art, a figurative arts school in New York, and she was working as an employee for Jeffrey Epstein in New York City.
The Justice Department's limited disclosure of records tied to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein has brought long-awaited validation for survivor Maria Farmer, whose allegations against Epstein date back nearly 3 decades. Among the documents released on Friday was an FBI record from 1996 describing a criminal complaint involving child pornography, a report that Farmer has consistently said she filed, but which had never before been publicly acknowledged by federal authorities. Although the complainant's name is redacted in the FBI document, Farmer's attorney, Jennifer Freeman, confirmed to CNN that the report refers to her client. According to the document's Facts of Complaint section, the woman, identified as a professional artist, had created photographs of her underage sisters as part of her personal artwork. The report alleges that Epstein stole the photographs and their negatives and was believed to have attempted to sell them. It further states that Epstein asked the woman to photograph young girls at swimming pools and threatened to burn her house down if she disclosed the existence of the images. Freeman told CNN that locating proof of Farmer's original 1996 complaint was a priority ahead of the Justice Department's release. She said the document's emergence raises urgent questions about how authorities handled or failed to handle the information at the time. Why didn't they act to stop this? Freeman asked in a written statement to CNN, adding that the document suggests law enforcement had early warning signs years before Epstein faced charges in New York and Florida.
Maria Farmer was a professional artist. She was about 25 years old. She had graduated from the New York Academy of Art, a figurative arts school in New York, and she was working as an employee for Jeffrey Epstein in New York City. She has consistently and repeatedly said that in 1996, in the summer of 1996, she reported Jeffrey Epstein to the FBI after having reported him to the New York Police Department. She reported Epstein and she reported Ghislaine Maxwell as well for child sex abuse crimes, including child pornography. We've spent many years trying to get her records through Freedom of Information Act requests, which are the classic way to get them. The most recent Freedom of Information Act request I made was in January. I got a response in January 2025, that's earlier this year, and they told me that they wouldn't get back to me before November 2027 to just answer my request. And this has been and when we've seen anything from the government, which is infrequent, it's highly redacted information. And we've never seen anything before corroborating her 1996 report, but we just saw it yesterday for the first time in 30 years, which is remarkable, really remarkable. All we know right now from the documents is that there was a clear and corroborated report that Maria Farmer did exactly what she has said for 30 years that she did. She reported Epstein to the authorities, to the federal authorities, to the FBI. And as far as we can tell, and I wish I knew, Kristen, I wish I had more information out of the files or otherwise, it looks like the government did absolutely nothing. And as a result, having done nothing, having failed to act, horrible things have happened. Had they acted, had they investigated in even the smallest way, they could have stopped him. And it's not just the victims, it's also the victims' families, because it affects not just that person, but everyone they deal with, their loved ones, the people that they come in contact with, their ability to function in society. So it affected thousands of lives, and they could have spared that for those thousands of people. And they could have avoided 30 years of trauma if they had just done their job. One of the key things we want to accomplish with this release of files is transparency. Another key thing is belief, restoration of public trust in the institutions. And a third thing is accountability. And so far, we're not hitting any of those marks. Maria said it beautifully to me yesterday. She said it's tears of joy and tears of sadness. Tears of joy because she's now validated. She's vindicated. Yes, she did what she said she did, and that the world can now see that. And all those naysayers, and there have been a lot of naysayers accusing her of not telling the truth, who disregarded her, discarded her, dismissed her for so many years, decades. She's now has some kind of corroboration and vindication that this is true. And the sadness, the tears of sadness, because look at the waste of the 30 years. And not only for her, but for so many victims, whether it's Virginia Giuffre or all the other survivors who didn't have to be subjected to this kind of child sex crime.
The complaint, stamped September 3, 1996, underscores that Epstein was on the FBI's radar long before his 2008 plea deal in Florida, which allowed him to avoid federal prosecution. In a statement released through her legal team, Maria Farmer said the FBI had failed her and other victims, arguing that inaction enabled years of continued abuse. Farmer's sister, Annie Farmer, has also spoken publicly about being abused by Epstein and his associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, when she was 16. Speaking emotionally to CNN's Jake Tapper, Annie Farmer said seeing the document was overwhelming. They had this in writing all along. She questioned how many victims might have been spared if authorities had intervened earlier. Additional files released by the Justice Department later Friday included roughly 120 photographs showing evidence collected during Epstein-related investigations. Posted online hours after the initial disclosure, the images largely depict FBI evidence boxes, envelopes, hard drives, CDs, and computers seized during raids on Epstein's properties in Florida, New York, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. The New York Times reported that after reviewing the newly released FBI report, Maria Farmer broke down in tears. "I've waited 30 years," she told the paper, saying the document finally disproves claims that she fabricated her account. While grateful for validation, Farmer expressed anguish that the FBI did not act sooner, saying their failure allowed countless girls to be harmed. "I've waited 30 years, I can't believe it. They can't call me a liar anymore. They should be ashamed. They harmed all of these little girls. That part devastates me." Brad Edwards, a longtime attorney for Epstein victims, told the New York Times that the government could have stopped Epstein in the 1990s if Farmer's report had been taken seriously. He called it shameful that the document was denied for years and urged a full investigation into officials who knew of its existence. "There should be a full-fledged investigation into every government employee who knew about this document and allowed a narrative to be publicized that it did not exist." A 2020 Internal Justice Department review of the Epstein case made no reference to Farmer's 1996 complaint, a gap that survivors and their advocates say now demands answers.